Alright everyone, welcome to part 2 of the 1 HP run. This time we're going to be tackling the woods, and this kind of has an interesting challenge to it because, as I was saying in the first episode, there's kind of this incentive that I've put to battling just because of some bonus stats, but for this area specifically, there are the golden beanies that give you more XP and give you the spike badge, which I don't know if I'll use the spike badge or not, but for grinding purposes of just getting the Who beans, it could be really important. And unfortunately I missed one right there, but I'm getting the spike badge, well, not crucial to the run, I think is a little bit important, just so I can have at least the option to have the spike badge to help grind the Woo beans, because I didn't mention it in the last one, but I will be using the Bean Cafe and getting Great Force. I don't plan on using the Mush badge in this one, just because I feel like the Great Force is enough. I feel like there's enough power with the Great Force. I feel like the Mush badge would just be pushing it, and it would kind of nullify the entire thing of just buffing boss's HP if I just did an absurd amount of damage. Plus, the Mush badge is very helpful for the more mushrooms you have, but the hard part is, a lot of just normal mushrooms aren't actually useful in this run. Really, 1-up mushrooms are the important thing. And we get our first boss fight of the video, which will be Wiggler, and I did buff his HP, but in vanilla his HP is so ridiculously low that even doubling it from what it originally was, I don't know how much of a difference it'll make, but just in case. Yeah, unfortunately, as I feared, the Wiggler, even with an HP boost, is still about as thin as paper and gets obliterated. So, oh well. I promise the next boss, though, will be quite the challenge. I was taking it just a little bit too carefree. And what I should have done was run away from the battle, but instead I got greedy, and as we know from the last time, that still is not a great strategy for this run. Now you may be wondering, did I save? And the answer was absolutely not. So I did have to fight Wiggler again. Fortunately, it was as easy as the first time, no real troubles there, so I just gave all the chocobo fruit that I've gathered to be able to get to the boss of this area. And, you'd think I'd learn from my mistakes and actually save the game often at every save point, but sometimes I don't. I definitely did at this one because I know what's coming is not going to be easy. Now, as you watch me get absolutely dismantled by the... It's like Chuckle-later? Whatever it is. As you watch me get absolutely dismantled, let me explain some of the hardships about where I am right now in the game. One, this boss is, in my opinion, very difficult regardless on dodging his attacks. I'm horrible at dodging his attacks, and Mario especially has a terrible time dodging his attacks because it gets him on like that last frame, it feels like every time. But another difficulty of this run for this specific point in the game is your only shop that you really have access to is the shop in Bean Bean Castle, and they don't sell 1-up mushrooms yet. After you beat this part of the game, they do start selling 1-up mushrooms, but for this part of the game specifically, they don't. And so unfortunately what that means is I wasn't thinking about it when I was using my 1-up mushrooms earlier, but I have 3 1-up mushrooms and a 1-up super, and that's pretty much all I got. So it means I actually have to beat this boss. Not only just, beat him because he's extremely difficult, but also knowing that I have a very limited amount of revives to pull it off in the first place. And this is also where I think the HP buff really kicks in, because you mix a boss that I'm already bad at dodging his attacks, I have limited revives, and then you add in the fact that, he has buffed HP, and it's going to take a lot longer for him to go down. And I have to say, this is probably one of, if not the most difficult bosses in the entire run, but it's definitely the hardest boss I've had to face up to this point. And I think it's funny to just see the death counter just keep rolling up because, it was a very difficult battle. And some of the attempts that'll be coming up later, you'll be able to see that it's like, I actually got pretty close on some parts, and that just makes it even worse that it's like, yep, so close but yet so far. But anyway, I'll just let it play, and I'll chime back in after the long session of taking this boss out. So, after the headache that was that boss, we did finally get it done. And I honestly didn't know if it was going to be possible. I had to take a little bit of a break and come back to it because it took so many attempts. And I was starting to think that it was like, I don't know if I could do it. But this is another interesting part that I realized in these runs. It's that solo battles will be very dangerous. But don't worry, I'll learn from my mistakes, right? Wrong. I did the exact same thing in the very next battle. And there you go. After 3 failed attempts in a row, I finally decided, you know what? Solo battling is just something I think I'm gonna skip. And I did. And honestly, I was able to make it through. And I'm not gonna include this part because... Or I'm not gonna include the grinding part of this because I went and got a bunch of the beans, I went and got a bunch of 1-ups from the shop, sold my other mushrooms that I can't use, and I went and got the bonus ring and the Great Force specifically because the double ring doubles the amount of experience you get, and the Great Force makes my attack twice as strong. So both of those are going to be super helpful in this run. Of course, with every area, the Hooniversity has its own set of challenge. My main worry was these viruses, because the blue one, and sometimes the yellow one, depending on speed, outspeed Mario. But luckily, doing the run strategy and having my Mario have high enough speed, we were able to make it through without really any problems. But there was also a bit of scare with the Beaker guys because I underestimated their speed as well, but same result, Mario was able to outspeed, so we ended up okay. And the Great Force is very helpful in this, just to get levels fast. The real, I feel like, interesting part is, of course, getting to Cackletta in this. And of course, you know, like every other boss, her HP is buffed, and I hope that this will make her more difficult, especially now with the Great Force. I feel like, at least in terms of normal enemies, and in a vanilla game, I mean, this normally happens too, where the bros can just kind of shred through most bosses and enemies from this point on in the game. So I get extremely lucky in this battle. I end up attacking the real Cackletta every single time, and I don't know if there is an actual, like, tell to know which one the real one is, If there is, then I don't know what it is. I just got extremely lucky in getting the real one every single time. And we have the rematch with Popple and Rookie in the basement, and this is gonna get really goofy really quickly because, as I mentioned, for whatever reason, Popple is the only person while I was modding the game that for some reason his HP value gets completely broken. And I will explain a little bit more of that later, but there are some interesting things that I do want to show in this fight. One of those things being, when you're playing a normal game, especially if you use Great Force and Vanilla, you can destroy these guys extremely quickly. But there's actually a special set of bros attacks that they have that they can do, that if the fight goes on long enough, you'll be able to see. And so here's one of them, we'll see the other one. So yeah, I think it's really cool that they actually have that in there. Kind of makes them more dynamic as like a team, I would say, but unfortunately you pretty much never get to see that because it was like what, turn 3 or turn 4 or something like that before they even decided to use it. And so it's very rare that you get to see these bros attacks. And one of the hard things too for me, and while I was doing this battle, was I'm not used to guarding the bros attacks because I'm used to winning this battle on like turn 1 or 2.
Eventually.
So, that entire fight actually lasted about 7 minutes, and I just cut it down because, as I was mentioning before, Popple's HP for some reason has just become completely broken, so I'm going to use the strategy of just taking out Rookie instead, but I'm going to do that in the next episode. Thank you for watching, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one.